Look, I need to tell you something that's been eating at me, and I swear I'm not making this up. So, I'm 25, and everything in my life was finally perfect, like actually perfect for once. I had this amazing guy, he's 29, we've been together for 2 years, and we were supposed to get married in February. I'm talking about the whole dream: nice house, good money coming in, and I'm pregnant with our first baby. I thought I had it all figured out, you know? Here's the thing, though. People love to judge what they don't understand. My past is my past, and I've never been one to apologize for living my life. When I was younger, yeah, I did some things. I was 22, in college, needed money to finish school, and I was going through this whole healing phase. I made some choices that helped pay the bills and gave me some excitement. Whatever, everyone has their college stories, right? But with him, everything was different. I was completely faithful, like obsessively faithful. We even had this month-long break early in our relationship, and guys were literally throwing themselves at me, and I didn't even entertain it, not even a kiss. That's how committed I was to building something real with him. I was done with my wild phase, ready to be the perfect girlfriend, the perfect future wife. He works in this technical field, makes really good money, so I didn't have to stress about finances anymore. I could focus on us, on building our future together. I managed our social media presence, made sure we always looked happy and perfect online. I planned our dates, kept track of our anniversaries, did all the little things that make relationships work. I was literally the ideal girlfriend. The crazy part is, we never really talked about our sexual histories in detail. I mean, why would we? We both weren't virgins when we met, so what's the point of digging into old stuff? The past is the past. I figured if he wanted to know something specific, he'd ask. He never did, so I assumed it didn't matter to him either. Sometimes people from my college days would reach out on social media or whatever, but I just ignored them. That wasn't my life anymore. I had moved on, grown up, become this responsible woman who was about to be a wife and mother. I wasn't that wild college girl anymore. I'll admit I liked the security he provided, not just financially, but emotionally too. He was stable, reliable, the kind of guy who would never hurt me or leave me hanging. After all the chaos of my early 20s, having someone steady felt incredible. I could finally relax and just be happy. Our relationship had this easy rhythm. He'd come home from work, we'd have dinner, watch TV, talk about our days. On weekends, we'd do normal couple stuff: grocery shopping, hanging out with friends, planning our wedding. It was exactly the kind of life I'd always wanted but never thought I could have. I was so careful about maintaining boundaries with other guys. I didn't flirt, didn't put myself in questionable situations, didn't do anything that could be misinterpreted. I was completely transparent about where I was going, who I was with, what I was doing. I thought that's what being in a committed relationship meant. The wedding planning was going perfectly. We had the venue booked, the dress ordered, invitations sent out. I was already showing a little bit, but not enough that it would be obvious in photos. Everything was falling into place exactly how I dreamed it would. Then he started acting weird. Just little things at first. Being quieter than usual, checking his phone more often, seeming distracted when I was talking to him. I figured it was work stress or maybe just normal pre-wedding jitters. Guys get nervous about marriage, right? I didn't push it because I thought he'd talk to me when he was ready. Looking back, I should have known something was wrong when he started asking random questions about my college days. Nothing specific, just general stuff about what I was like back then, who I hung out with, what kind of person I was. I thought it was sweet that he wanted to know more about my past, so I kept it light and positive. I talked about my classes, my friends, the fun times, the normal stuff you share with someone you love. I had no idea that everything I'd built was about to come crashing down because of something that happened years before I even knew he existed. The night everything changed started like any other night. He came home from work, but something was definitely off. He was holding his phone like it was contaminated or something, and he had this look on his face that I'd never seen before. Not angry exactly, but shocked and disgusted and hurt all at the same time. He sat down across from me at our kitchen table and just stared for what felt like forever. Finally, he put his phone down and said someone had sent him something. Some anonymous account on Instagram had messaged him a video with a note that said, "Don't marry the whore." Just writing that makes me furious all over again. The video was from when I was 22 during my college phase. I was with 3 guys, and yeah, you can probably imagine what was happening. But here's the thing. All our faces were blurred out. You literally couldn't tell who anyone was unless you knew very specific details. He only knew it was me because of this small tattoo on my hip that you can barely see. I immediately went into defense mode because honestly, what else was I supposed to do? I explained that you couldn't even identify me in the video, that it was ancient history, that it had nothing to do with our relationship now. I was furious that some random person was trying to sabotage our happiness with old stuff that didn't matter. But he wasn't hearing any of it. Instead, he started saying these weird things about how I was only with him for his money and stability. Like, where did that even come from? I loved him for who he was, not what he could provide. Sure, the financial security was nice, but that wasn't why I was marrying him. Then he asked the question I knew was coming, but hoped I'd never have to answer. He wanted to know my number, how many people I'd been with total. I could have lied, but I've always been honest about who I am. I told him the truth, around 80 guys over the years. The look on his face when I said that number, I'll never forget it. It was like I'd physically hit him or something. He just sat there processing it, and I could literally see him doing the math in his head, trying to figure out timelines and averages and all that. I tried to explain that it wasn't as bad as it sounded. Some of those were just hookups, some were short relationships, some were during periods when I was single for months. It's not like I was with a different guy every weekend. But the more I tried to justify it, the worse his expression got. He started asking questions about the video, when it was made, how many people had copies, whether it was online somewhere. I told him I had no idea because it was years ago, and I'd moved on with my life. I wasn't keeping track of old videos or staying in touch with people from that time. That's when he really lost it. He started talking about what would happen if people in our social circle found out, if his coworkers saw it, if our future kids discovered it someday. He was creating all these horrible scenarios that probably would never happen, working himself up over possibilities instead of focusing on our actual relationship. I kept trying to bring the conversation back to reality. This was something I did before I knew him, when I was a completely different person. I'd never cheated on him, never given him any reason not to trust me. I was carrying his baby, planning our wedding, building our life together. Wasn't that more important than ancient history? But he couldn't get past it. He kept saying he felt like he didn't know who I really was, like I'd been pretending to be someone else this whole time. That hurt more than anything because I hadn't been pretending. I'd grown and changed, sure, but I was still me. I just wasn't that wild college girl anymore. He needed space to think. Just like that, after 2 years together and a baby on the way, he needed space to think about whether he could marry me because of something that happened before we met. I was completely devastated. This was supposed to be the happiest time in our lives, engaged, expecting our first child, planning our future together. Instead, I was sitting alone in our house, wondering if everything I'd worked for was about to disappear because someone decided to drag up my past and ruin my happiness. What made it worse was that I genuinely didn't understand why this was such a big deal to him. We'd both had previous relationships. We'd both had casual encounters. The only difference was that I'd had more of them, and someone had decided to document one of mine. If the situation were reversed, I would have handled it completely differently. But apparently, having a past means you're not marriage material. Apparently, growing and changing as a person doesn't matter if someone has evidence of who you used to be. Apparently, everything good you do in a relationship gets erased the moment your partner finds out you weren't always the person they fell in love with. I spent that whole night crying and trying to figure out how my perfect life had turned into this nightmare so quickly. A week later, he came back with an ultimatum that completely blindsided me. Either we postpone the wedding indefinitely while he processes everything, or we're done completely. No middle ground, no compromise, no working through it together like couples are supposed to do. I was 8 weeks pregnant and planning a wedding for February, and suddenly everything was hanging by a thread because of a video from 3 years ago. I couldn't believe this was actually happening. I thought once he had time to cool down and think rationally, he'd realize how ridiculous he was being. So I went into full damage control mode. I offered to track down whoever sent the video and confront them. I suggested couples therapy so we could work through his hang-ups together. I even said I'd delete all my social media accounts if that would make him feel better about our relationship. Nothing worked. He was completely fixated on this idea that I'd somehow deceived him, even though I'd never lied about anything. He just never asked the right questions, and apparently that was my fault somehow. The worst part was reaching out to friends for support and having some of them actually side with him. They said I should have been more upfront about my extensive past, like I owed every potential boyfriend a detailed sexual resume before we got serious. Since when is that a requirement? I tried explaining that when you're building a new relationship, you focus on the present and future, not on cataloging every previous encounter. I tried explaining that when you're building a new relationship, you focus on the present and future, not on cataloging every previous encounter. I wasn't hiding anything maliciously. I just didn't think it was relevant to what we were building together. But everyone kept acting like I'd committed some terrible crime by having an active single life before settling down. Meanwhile, guys get praised for their experience and nobody questions their past. The double standard was infuriating. I started playing the pregnancy card because honestly, what else did I have left? I reminded him constantly that we were about to be parents, that this stress wasn't good for the baby, that our child needed stable parents who worked through problems together instead of running away when things got complicated. I even suggested we could move to a different city if he was so worried about people from our current social circle finding out about the video. I was willing to leave everything behind to save our relationship, but he wasn't willing to get over something that happened before we met. The more desperate I got, the more distant he became. It was like he'd already made up his mind and was just waiting for me to accept it. I could feel him slipping away, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I started panicking about losing everything. Not just him, but the whole life we built together. The house, the financial security, the social status, the perfect future I'd planned. I'd gotten so comfortable in that life that I couldn't imagine going back to struggling in uncertainty. Looking back, maybe I was fighting more for the lifestyle than for him specifically, but at the time, it all felt the same. He represented everything I'd worked so hard to achieve, and losing him meant losing all of it. The final straw came when I discovered he'd been discussing our situation with his family and friends behind my back. I was absolutely humiliated that our private business had become entertainment for people who didn't even know the whole story and definitely didn't understand the complexity of our relationship. When I confronted him about violating my privacy like that, he had the nerve to say he needed advice and support. From who? People who were going to automatically take his side and paint me as the villain. Of course they were going to tell him he could do better and that he deserved someone pure. That's when I really let him have it. I accused him of trying to turn everyone against me and making me look like some kind of predator when all I'd done was live my life as a single woman before committing to him completely. The conversation got brutal fast. He said he felt like he didn't know who I really was, and I fired back that if he couldn't accept my past, then maybe he never really loved me at all. Real love means accepting someone completely, including their history. I laid out everything I'd brought to our relationship: complete faithfulness, emotional support for his career, carrying his child, being the perfect girlfriend in every way that actually mattered. Why did none of that count compared to something that happened years before we even met? He said it wasn't just about the past, It was about feeling deceived and wondering what else I hadn't told him. That made me even angrier because I never deceived anyone. He just never asked specific questions, and apparently I was supposed to volunteer information that might ruin my chances at happiness. I told him he was being insecure and couldn't handle being with a woman who had more experience than him. Most guys would actually appreciate being with someone who knew what they were doing, but apparently he needed some innocent girl who would make him feel like her first and only everything. That's when he finally snapped and said he was done, that he couldn't marry someone he didn't trust. I realized I was actually going to lose him and started bargaining, offering to sign a prenup, get a DNA test for the baby, anything that would prove my commitment to our future together. But it was too late. He'd already mentally checked out of our relationship and was just going through the motions until he could figure out how to leave without looking like the bad guy who abandoned his pregnant fiancée. The last thing I said to him was that he was throwing away something real for something that didn't matter, and that he'd regret it when he realized how good he had it with me. I meant every word of it at the time. 6 months later, I'm sitting in this tiny apartment that's costing me half my paycheck, watching my ex-fiancé live his best life without me. He pays child support like he's legally required to, but that's it. No extra help, no emotional support, no involvement beyond the bare minimum. Our daughter is beautiful and perfect, but raising her alone is nothing like I imagined motherhood would be. I thought I'd be in our nice house with a husband who helped with night feedings and diaper changes. Instead, I'm doing everything myself while working a job I hate just to keep us afloat. The dating scene as a single mom is absolutely brutal. The kind of guys I used to attract aren't interested in someone with a baby and all the baggage that comes with it. The few dates I've been on either ended badly when they found out about my past or were clearly just looking for an easy hookup because they assumed I'd be desperate. Meanwhile, he's thriving. I see him sometimes around town, and he looks better than ever. He got some kind of promotion at work, started working out regularly, and has this confidence that he never had when we were together. It's like leaving me was the best thing that ever happened to him. The worst part is his new girlfriend. She's this quiet, conservative type who works at some local medical office. Everything about her screams relationship material in the way that apparently I never did. She's probably never been with more than 2 or 3 guys, definitely never made any videos, definitely never needed money for college in the ways I did. I try to tell myself that she's boring and that he'll eventually realize what he's missing, but deep down, I know that's not true. She gives him something I never could: peace of mind. He doesn't have to worry about her past catching up to them or anyone sending anonymous messages about videos. My friends have gradually distanced themselves from me, tired of hearing me complain about how unfair everything turned out. They all moved on with their lives while I'm stuck replaying the same arguments and wondering what I could have done differently. I'm working this dead-end job that barely covers our expenses, living in a place that's half the size of the house we were supposed to share, struggling with childcare costs that eat up most of my paycheck. This isn't the life I planned at all. The final slap in the face came last month when I saw their engagement announcement on social media. She's wearing a ring that's easily twice the size of the one he gave me, and they look genuinely happy in a way that we honestly never did. Even in our best photos, there was always something forced about our smiles. In their pictures, they look relaxed and natural together. She's not posing or trying to create some perfect image for social media. They just look like 2 people who actually enjoy each other's company and aren't worried about what anyone else thinks. I realized while looking at those photos that while I was busy trying to build a life based on what I could get from him, the house, the financial security, the social status, she built something real with him, something based on who they actually are together, not what they could provide for each other. But even now, sitting here alone with my daughter while he's probably planning his new wedding, I can't fully admit that my choices and attitude contributed to losing everything. It's easier to blame him for being too insecure to handle a real woman with a real past than to face the possibility that maybe I approached our entire relationship wrong from the beginning. I still don't think I did anything terrible. My past is my past, and I shouldn't have to apologize for living my life before I met him. But I can't deny that everything I wanted has slipped away, and I'm the one left dealing with the consequences while he gets his happy ending with someone else. Sometimes I wonder if I would have handled things differently if I'd known what was at stake. But then I remember that I shouldn't have to change who I am or hide my history to keep a man. If he couldn't accept all of me, then maybe we were never meant to be together anyway. That's what I tell myself on the bad days when I'm changing diapers alone at 3 a.m. and wondering how everything went so wrong so fast. But honestly, watching him succeed without me makes it hard to believe my own rationalizations.
If this confession kept you hooked, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We share powerful true stories every day that explore the complex realities of life.